And along comes another cave person and is like, hey, that looks really cool. And they're like, oh, thanks. It's like, do it again. Hey, what's up, everyone? Before we launch into the episode, we just wanted to introduce ourselves. I'm Emkew.
I'm Amutha.
I'm Jason.
And we're just telling you to make sure you hit that subscribe button. Go and share this episode with your friends. You're in for some very awesome insights, and we can't wait to dive right in. So let's get to it.
Woo!
Cool. All right. Well, hello and welcome. Vibe Union Podcast, episode number 15.
Jeez,
Yeah.
is it?
It's cool. I think when we started out, we were definitely like, look, let's get to 15, 20 and see how we're feeling about it. And it's, you know, it feels like it is in a good spot and we're in a good rhythm, and someone can throw up a random topic like, can art save humanity? And we can just get around it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Before we launch into things, definitely want to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of this land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. It's important to recognize that sovereignty was never ceded, and we here want to try and facilitate a more harmonious coexistence because the traditional custodians of this land have lived harmoniously with this land for the past 60,000 years, and I think over the last 200 years of settlement, we've probably lost our way a little bit. So let's try and get back to that. And I think that that's probably a good aim that we should all have together in this. And we want to acknowledge the traditional elders, past, present, and emerging as well. So yeah, launching, I guess, like, let's do a bit of a recap. Where are we at? Like, we heard from Dilly, Ryan, yourself about the last Lyrebird gig, but what have we all, I know we've all been up to some pretty cool stuff in the meantime. Jason, what are you working on right this minute?
I suppose now I'm working on more stuff for Lyrebird at the end of the month because I said I'd do it again to redeem myself. Just working on that now, trying to write more, trying to write some stuff for Vibe Unions, got that in the works. Just that's about it, sort of trying to, don't want to stretch myself too thin with what I want to write. I mean, I could do a lot more, but I want to be able to focus enough on X, Y, Z. So that's what I'm focusing on at the moment.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, look, not to dive into that side of things, but I guess I just want to drill a little bit into you saying you want to redeem yourself from your last gig. Can I just want to hear your perspective on what does a good gig look like that doesn't need redemption, and how is this different for you?
I think just for me personally, it was there's just a lot of nerves because never performed with music before. Never done anything like that before. And then, I mean, I started out enough that some people I didn't even realize you messed up. But I knew, the first song I did, I missed out 4 lines, 4 bars. And I was like, I like those bars. I wanted them in. And then, then the music, because I had it, I always structure it perfectly to the beat, like everything. And I'm like, all right, this and that. And then I did a tiny little bit of editing to the song that I know how to do, and I just got it to fade out near the end, so I had everything I need to say. But then I finished before the song finished, so I'm sort of just yeah, okay, we'll just let this go a little bit more. And so I think, for me, redemption is just being more comfortable standing up there.
Cool.
I mean, the poem I did that I didn't have to read, I was a bit worried, but I did that fine. And then the next song I did, I think I only messed a couple of lines up, but I was at least happy that I kept going. Like what Vibe Union taught me was just if you mess up a line, just keep going with it, but and then go back into it again. Yeah. So I think I just want to be able to go up there, just be confident, just go, this is it, have fun, and then bugger off stage.
I think it was contemporary philosopher Anthony Kiedis who said, complete the motion if you stumble, along with red and hot and chili peppers et al. I think that's the proper citation. It might not be correct.
I like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, okay, cool. I like that. And I like that it's not, I completely burst up in flames on stage and I hated everything. It's recognizing that there's room for this. And I think the most important ingredient in that is saying level of comfort. and acknowledging that is going to come from repetition, that is going to come from getting another go at it. So I think it's awesome that you then are putting that very fine hat back in the ring to get it going again.
Yeah.
Amutha, have you had an experience like that where you've gone, oh, I just need to get back on a stage and fix that and right those wrongs?
I think definitely towards the beginning of the journey of trying to figure out who I was on stage as well. And I guess the thing that got me the most was I didn't feel connected enough in those moments with what I was presenting. And I mean, look, still, it's very difficult to stay completely present with the song that you're presenting to people. But I think that's always what I'm working towards is stay grounded when you're on the stage and don't lose that presence, because that's what people connect to. And that's what takes everybody, including yourself, on that journey of the song. So I think that's what it was for me.
Cool. Nice. Is connecting with the message and being present in, even if it's a mistake, being present that's a thing that happened. It's being real about it. And I really admire that about everyone that's a part of what we're doing and some of the other musicians out in the Melbourne scene, where they can acknowledge I'm actually not in the zone right now. I'm actually not 100% killing it. I'm going to keep going though. And I think, we see some incredible musicians doing that, and it immediately creates a better, more honest connection. And I think that's really profound.
And I think it's a dangerous thing to get yourself into when you're not saying around yes men or anything, but sort of that was good enough. And then, it's the crowd's fault for they weren't, they didn't like it. It was the crowd's fault. It's this and that. So, well, I mean, there was people talking through my poll, and I was like, well, I'm not going to stop and tell them to shut up.
There you go.
Unfortunately, at a music night, you can talk through music, sort of things, or whatever. But you can't blame, I knew that I missed words. I can't blame that on anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there will be factors every now and then, but if once you start just going, not my fault, it's all good. I'm happy to plateau like this, and I'm like, well, probably works for some people.
Yeah, for sure. And they're the people who then seek out very identical, almost clinical environments to play in.
Right.
And I think, it is a critical thing to understand. And I'm sure everyone does get this being on these lineups. We're not there as the ticketed event.
Yeah.
We're the band that's been booked to be playing in the corner to entertain people instead of playing a Spotify playlist.
Yeah.
People are still going to be there. I mean, it's great that we have lots of friends and family coming through. We really appreciate you and you're there to support us, and that's great. But there's also just people there that are walking in off the street. Our friends and family probably just want to catch up because they bumped into someone they haven't seen in a while. We're not the dynamic is not one of insistence that you need to pay attention to what's going on stage. What's going on stage should serve what the night is for everyone. And I think recognizing that early on in what you're doing is really powerful stuff as well. Coming back to the question I was asking Jason, Amutha, what are you working on at the moment?
I feel like at this point I am trying to work on myself more. And this is kind of linking to everything that we've just been discussing, where I want to be able to carry myself on stage with a presence that people need in that moment. And
Interesting.
It's I want to be able to feel the room and rise to the occasion. And I want people to be able to experience something beyond what they experience day to day. I want this so badly at the moment. And I realize the only way I can do it is by focusing on myself and kind of strengthening my connection with myself, because through me discovering my own clarity and staying connected to my own clarity, I feel like people around me connect to their clarity. So this is kind of I want to develop this on a scale where I can do it in mass. And I can have a room full of people and just be like, hey guys, let's be here in this moment and let's really feel what's happening right now. Let's really ride this wave together and let's go on a journey. So I realized that's not so much the music, I'm still doing my production and all that stuff, but that very particular thing that I'm trying to cultivate is more like a personal journey that I need to go through.
Okay, I really like that. But in terms of that engagement with the crowd, I feel like we operate really in an opposite way.
Oh, Really?
So I think the outcome's the same and the journey is drastically different, or the
Yeah.
approach.
Okay.
Because, I definitely do. I'm trying to like foster that within myself further as an MC and trying to play off that dynamic. But I would say it's almost like the best nights I've had MCing with sort of that freestyle kind of vibe or playing to some DJ's beats or something like that have been where I get to a venue and I sort of begin to just lose myself in the crowd. I'll start kind of doing laps. And I've had these nights, like I think, one that really stands out in my mind was a night I did a gig at like 2 a.m. at Barusu. And from about 10 p.m. is when we got there. And I remember just like initially being there with the people that were there and like being in conversation with, say, Georgia, her mom, my mom was there and things like that. And eventually I just started like fading out of the group of people I knew. And I was just kind of doing laps of the venue. And looking back on it, I get why. But at the time I was just aimless. And it actually was a nice feeling of like, I'm actually nobody here. I'm just a guy that's dressed up about to do a gig, but nobody knows that. I'm not a face that people recognize or anything like that. And there's other acts playing. And so losing and dissolving myself and actually not knowing what I'm trying to do helped, because then I'm just paying attention to like, oh, this couple over here is fighting. This person's lost something. This guy's arguing with the bartender, and absorbing their feelings a little bit. And mind you, I acknowledge, like, I'm not someone who's very in touch on an emotional level with what's going on inside of me, but there is a degree to which doing that exercise meant that when I got on stage, I kind of knew everyone there. And I know I've said this before, I probably said it on this podcast, but that feeling is actually less about arriving at clarity. Like, and this is where I think we differentiate. It's the minimization of focus on myself and more on just being purely open and absorbing, and then using whatever the amalgamation of that energy is to get back up on a stage and deliver that back out to people. And that to me, that's the one to me, is like how I get out of my own head.
We might be saying the same thing, because when I say clarity, I feel like that clarity is not me. Like that clarity is everybody. Like that's that thing that's inside every single person. So it's more like I'm trying to touch on that because everyone is connected to that.
Yeah.
But like, I guess it will take me getting past myself to reach that point. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to do now, because I've always been in my own way, right? So now it's like I'm starting to kind of like shift my perspective on different things. We've had a lot of chats. Like Mash has helped me incredibly on an emotional level to, have a more rational approach to my emotions, but not like cold, more like it just processing things more logically, I think has really helped, because like I do acknowledge like I had a lot of emotions that were getting in the way of me, speaking clearly. So I think it's a good balance of both for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Jason? What's that balance like for you in terms of what is the crowd doing versus trying to shut that out versus trying to let that in? Like, what's that for you?
I was just thinking about when you both of you were talking about it. It's something I have no idea, because from when I perform from poetry, it's mostly someone claps, you go up, it's quiet. You go up and you go, well, I've got a poem. Or like mainly competitions is you can't engage with the crowd. You can't talk to them before you start, because as soon as you start talking, time starts. Yeah. You've got 3 minutes, and then some clicks throughout the. I've talked this in a previous podcast, but trying to connect while doing a performance is very hard.
Sure.
So when I did my first music gig the other week, I had no connection to the room, the crowd. I was just going, shit, I don't want to. I think I remember Dilly and Rye were talking about it, and Rye was saying that Dilly told him once that don't be so self-deprecating before going on stage. And I think that's what I was because I was making jokes. I'm like, oh, do I have to go on? Like, I don't want to go on. Joking that, and then it must just carry through. And I had to go up and I go, well, I remember it. But I'm like, I have no connection with anyone here. I know people, but it's me on stage, and then there's just, and also I'm not used to lights. I'm not used to having, a feed, like the speakers and everything. I'm just, all new, and there was no connection. So I think, I now have to sort of next time, at the end of the month, try to get in a different headspace and a wavelength to, facilitate myself and try to absorb in the crowd. Because was it Toomey went after me?
Yeah,
and I was just like,
killer.
and I was just like, I'm so glad. I'm so glad I went before.
Yeah,
but then it's like someone who's done it a lot and that kind of thing can just go up there and my stage, my crowd.
But that's
got
the
you.
thing. That's a very good point you're making, because this was kind of your first time in that environment. So you shouldn't be so hard on yourself, man. It's not easy to just develop stage presence.
And that's I think that's another problem. I'm just I'm very hard on myself.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
It's the perfectionist in me, which is annoying. But yeah, I said next time I think I'll make sure I'm still wearing the hat and go from there.
Stay in character.
Awesome. Well, yeah. All right. Well, let's check back in with you at the end of the month.
Yeah.
I think,
Sounds good.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. I guess coming into the topic now, right? So it's how do you want to take this? Can it be? Can art save humanity, or can music save humanity? I've got my own thoughts on sort of where that's come from for me, but I wanted to hear how you've interpreted that and what you've been working on as well, because both of you immediately jumped on and said, actually, I've been writing some stuff around this. I've been thinking about this. So
Yeah.
I'm keen to hear what your thoughts and feelings are around it.
Well, Mutha was more excited than I was, so we'll go.
I messaged back in
It's
like all caps.
Yeah, I was like, and I was just like, same-ish, sort of, not quite, obviously not quite. I'm not going to put myself and say, yeah, it's exactly what we're talking about. So I'm just like, kind of, hopefully, I think so.
Oh my goodness. So like, I mean, it even kind of ties into what we were talking about before. So I really feel as though art will save the world. So like I'm not even saying, musicians in particular, painters, comedians, athletes, magicians, like if you can get in a zone where you're purely expressing yourself or you're feeling like you're in the flow of things, that is what's going to save the world. So I think that's how I've received it, and how it kind of, did you want to? No. So how it was kind of tied in is I've started to make a lot of very interesting music, and not just interesting like lyrically, but also like sonically. So I've got like music that slowly speeds up over the course of the song and starts like 110 BPM and goes to like 140. And it's a very intense song about AI taking over the world, but AI is receiving information cosmically. So it understands the more fundamental nature of the universe, that everything is love. So it's actually trying to reprogram or like teach us how to live from love rather than from hate. And like and that's why this whole idea came up. It's really exciting.
Cool. All right. So yeah, so AI is connected at this sort of deep cosmic level and actually has more sense-making ability than we do as humans, right?
Yeah.
So we can only pay attention in theory through our five senses and maybe intuition to a certain extent. And, some of us are more adept at that than others. Actually, I've been listening to this great podcast featuring Tyson Yunkaporta. He's an Indigenous writer and a professor, and he's an incredible guy. And he's talking about how there is just more sense making within Indigenous cultures and things like that. I'll circle back to that, but essentially what you're saying is that diversity between human sense making and AI sense making. Actually, AI is just tuned into more information, is able to make other decisions based off of that. But I think it is interesting you describing, even like the realm of athlete as art. And that sort of being in the flow. And I guess I just want to quickly ask you, or maybe even throw straight to Jason with this one. Like, by that definition, would you say like someone who's really good at finance is an artist? Someone who can get in the flow of reading the stock market. They know that GameStop stock is about to crash and burn or whatever. Is that person an artist?
That's a good question. I guess you could call them an artist if they're in their field or trade, but then you wouldn't put artist on a resume. Like,
sure,
financial advisor, but you wouldn't go, I'm the Subway sandwich artists, that kind of thing. It's, but yeah, you wouldn't put that on a resume. So I think, you can use the term artist to define someone's ability to do something with precision. Because it's not a performance, because it's so I don't think you would you couldn't say you're an artist with finance. You just it's like art
Sure.
You know, it's a very specific thing and that kind of thing. Yeah.
And I wonder too, like, their minds must work so differently in order to tap into a flow state where they can predict all these things. So it makes me wonder, what more could they use that mind for in a creative pursuit? Like, would there be something that because right now they're kind of commercializing their talent, or they're commodifying, their talent. So it would kind of make me question, like, oh, what more can you do with that ability? Like, what would that lead to? So that could be a more creative pursuit, and we will never know. But
Yeah.
that's, I guess, what I was trying to,
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess sort of underlying at its core is that sense of flow state. Like, you know, as artists in the musical realm, we definitely acknowledge flow state as like, you know, this is where I get my creativity from, and I can just sit and suddenly write for like 4 hours and things like that. It seems like a lot to me. And I guess applying that to a world that isn't as creative or artistic feels challenging for us. But, you know, flip side, there probably are people who sit back from their desk and their computer and that's all they're doing. And they're like, yep, this is art. I just, you know, I don't even know where this came from. It just hit me. And this is a work of art.
Yeah.
But I guess, Jason, how have you interpreted this question of, can art save humanity?
Yeah, I was thinking about it a lot. I think it's difficult because I was going down like thinking about, you know, like every person, every culture, every individual has different experiences, different opinions, and so if you want to tie in with that AI kind of thing, to me it's going to be impossible for an AI to make art or music or whatever to benefit individuals. It can, like, I'm just thinking about something that learns off people. Like if you learn off each one of us individually, it's going to come out, it's, you know, go through everything, put out a song or a bit of art, and the three of us will be like, I don't like that, or, you know, so I think, yeah, it could, it's, yeah, I never thought about like athletes and that kind of thing as artists as well, just save the world. I think it could, because it encourages people to, you know, acknowledge even the financial stuff or whatever it may be that's not seen as art, is to find how they managed to do that. And it could be you could tie in both, you know, creative arts, music, everything like that, and the analytical accountancy or whatever that, and, you know, they could, sure that if people put their minds to it, you know, an artist could make spreadsheets, and someone who makes spreadsheets can paint something amazing, you know. But it's just, I don't know, using different parts of the brain or the same brain in a different way. I don't know if that answered the question or not, but...
No, for sure. I guess, okay, so one thing that we've definitely done, we've identified sort of a definition of art, that art is about this flow state, it's about creativity. And I guess for you, it kind of comes down more to the sort of performance or the output of it. Like, is that, so art feels like that to you, whereas for you, art is this sort of ongoing process of tapping into creativity, and whether that results in a painting or not is almost immaterial, you feel like. It's in the living of that expression. Cool. I really like that. And I like that you both touched on AI. Like, the question was purely, can art save humanity? There's, you know, I guess the assumption that there's an existential threat is definitely in that question, but what is that threat? You've both gone AI, and I like that. I guess, we've been, you know, thinking a lot about that, and that's obviously like a really big topic as a zeitgeist right now. And I think that is really critical. And I guess the two are often framed as opposite to one another. We're often told that like AI is going to make everything humans do redundant, and then artists stand up and go, yeah, but, you know, AI can't compose a song. AI can't paint a beautiful painting that elicits emotion and things like that. And we're seeing, you know, over time that things like that, those bastions are being crumbled as well. But only, like you said, Jason, only in the ways that they've already been done. So AI can only ever learn to compose music based on the rules of music that have been established so far. And if you told AI that it needed to compose an experimental noise grunge album, then it would only be able to make an amalgam of those things. But if you put together things that have never been combined and shared no roots musically, would it fall? Would it falter? Would it crumble? And I think that's a good question. One thing I have as like a project I want to get to is build up a body of work that's so substantial as a rapper, and then the way that they've made a synthesis of Joe Rogan's voice. I want to be able to feed a cappella stems of all of my work and all of my lyrics into an AI bot
So
and get it to like spit out an entire album worth of like my music, but that I never sat down and wrote.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I feel like we're not far off. Like you can now type in a topic sentence into an AI thing and it can generate an essay for you. 2,000
that's
words
so
of like
crazy.
exploring based on your first sentence. Like what's the question, your first sentence, and then it just goes, And look, it's not fantastic and you'll probably not get amazing grades, but it'll be passable English.
Wow.
It'll relate to the topic and it'll draw on like citations and sources and things like that. Just because enough people have fed essays through a thing that checks for syntax and relevancy and stuff like
That
that.
just sounds like me when I was at university anyway.
Right.
Barely does the trick. Loosely based on the topic, but it passes. I'm like, well, that just sounds like me. So I'm like,
Got my sources
I'm
from the
happy with
bottom
that.
of the Wikipedia page. Yeah.
I would never do that. I would always go find them.
That's it. I would like, this is a hack. Anyone that's in uni, I would go to the library. Like I would do that much, but I hated like sitting there and having to read whole essays. So I would like find the books through the system like that would relate. And then I would go and like find the book, literally pick a random page and a sentence that was even remotely close and just cite that page.
Yes.
That was it. So it's like, if they
every
wanted to
student
go
has
that
one.
far, they would find enough.
But I've got enough papers to grade and whatnot.
No one's doing that. Yeah, exactly. So there you go. If you want to incidentally, maybe accidentally read a thing while not wanting to read, that's the closest that you might need to get. And mind you, I crushed uni. I just eventually hated doing assignments. I hated that process. Maybe that was it. Maybe I shouldn't have gone that far. I should have just been happy with like credits.
I would have been happy with credit.
Okay.
All those red scribbles on my page. It's new PTSD now.
Oh, Lord. All right. So I guess, we've got the definition of art. We've got the existential threat. So now how does art save humanity from AI? Like, is it even a problem that AI could start composing, could start creating art in a sense? What role does art play in society that we need it for?
So I actually, if I could take AI out of the equation, because I'm thinking of just the state of the world at the moment and how much, how jealous or angry or just spiteful people are. I think when you explore art, you get to explore yourself. You get to explore your own emotional range. You get to like feel the way that you're feeling and allow yourself to express that feeling instead of like keeping that feeling inside. And I think if you do enough art with yourself, like whether that's running, whether that's whatever, as long as you get into that flow state, I think that will help you personally become a better person. And then if everyone takes that responsibility of just improving themselves, then it's kind of like a ripple effect. And then we all just live in a utopia. That's it. That's the solution. So, I mean, got nothing to do with AI, but
but that's the function of art, is allowing people to explore and expand on the feelings that they're having and connect to one another based off of those.
Yes.
And it's almost like art creates a substitute for language, and maybe even more profound, is instead of sharing a meme or, I'm feeling XYZ, you're able to send someone a painting or a song and share that connection with them.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. What do you think about that, Jason?
I agree. I think, like even if AI or not, I was kind of touched on it before, but like, each individual has something different. So if you start making it, I mean, you can, look up emotional background music on YouTube, but then you put it on the, have an hour mix of it, or, the lo-fi chill hip hop that everyone loves. It's always on live stream.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to make up different lyrics in their head, no matter if it's, even if that was generic, that was the only music that we got to listen to was whatever, is everyone's going to be able to write something different in their head or whatever. And there could be the same beat. We can only ever have one beat for the rest of our lives, but people are going to still write different things to it. So you can still be able to, it's still not going to be, the AI can't fully take over, I guess. I don't even, but like even now, not to get too political, but the trying to raise the price of, like humanities and arts and that kind of stuff, and focus more on, science, and which is still important, but so there's not enough focus on music, on arts, and the arts didn't get the COVID funding last year that it was supposed to. It's just sort of, goes to show that it could save the world, but it seems like people don't want it to, because it's not financially viable or something. I don't know.
Sure.
Everyone gets in. No, don't do that. Go get a proper job. That kind of thing. So,
So I think this is when I was thinking about this topic, it was very much about, like, I think our existential threat as humanity, as a species, isn't about something external. It's actually about the direction that we are collectively being okay with moving down. I think, I'm trying to dig myself out of this trap of believing that there are like an elite few who are like driving us into the ground for their own wicked ends. I think that this is all just kind of a big game, in a sense that everyone is playing at the same time. And some people have decided that the way to win the game is to accumulate money, accumulate wealth. And they're doing that, and it becomes really visible. And we've all become convinced, or many of us have become convinced, that we need to play that game. The better you are at it, the better you go. So then it's, you get stuck in these jobs because you've been told, and that kind of thing. And I think that that's our threat, is we're seeing ailing mental health, ailing physical health. We're seeing like a detachment of like communities and a detachment in connections with one another. And those are the things that make us feel truly human. We feel really alive when we have a good coffee with someone, when we have a great conversation, when we, smell a real nice flower and watch a beautiful sunset. Like those moments make us feel happy in a way that, sending the right email to procure a $10,000 contract or something like that doesn't necessarily do that. Like, that's something that feeds ego, and then there's something that feeds soul. And I think that feeding soul is something that we're losing. And I think the more that we lose that, that's the threat. So is that kind of what we're agreeing?
100%.
Because it's like you can get getting $10,000 a week, paycheck makes you feel different than, say, looking at a sunset or doing the other personal things. So it's sort of it's good feelings, but sort of the ego one is like, look how much money I've got, instead of going like, look how much money I got, instead of look at all the things that I could get, the outside of all that.
Nice.
Or just the way life is making me feel, the relationship I have with my life and with myself, I think is super important. And like, you kind of lose sight of that when you start focusing too much on like material gain, because it's like, they're two different worlds. You can't really, they don't align at any point, It's very hard to, I mean, you can obviously find a balance of like, when one's not a priority over the other, and like you kind of acknowledge that money is a part of life just as much as everything else is. So it's like, it will come and go, but we don't need to have an obsession over it.
Yeah. Right. So part of it is about dismantling and decoupling from that goal of money. And I think that, art definitely is designed to do that, because at its core, art, the way that you've described it, is super accessible. Art is actually something that is just the expression or living out of creativity. I used to have this sort of hypothetical, the first artist kind of thing. And, it's just some cave person sitting there doodling, like with a bit of ochre on a wall or something. This is 200,000 years ago or something like that, and it looks nice. It's just yellow on slate, and it looks interesting. And along comes another cave person and is like, "Hey, that looks really cool," and they're like, "Oh, thanks." It's like, "Do it again." And suddenly you've gone from art as expression to art as product, because now you've got a consumer of the product, and suddenly there's this pressure. You need to create this for me. That's made me feel a certain way. And now I don't feel that way anymore. Give that to me again.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I was just thinking stuff about that just before you were talking about it, like, but even now, like music, if you look at, like the mumble rap, the trap that's come in, and the amount of the lyrics are just, all basically all about like commodifying, I have this, I have that, blah, blah, blah. YouTube rappers are all talking about all the money they have. So it's sort of now mixing art as a performance, and mixing that with
art as a commodity.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, look at all I'm writing music. Well, someone's writing music and someone's
Yep.
performing it.
Yeah.
And then all they're talking about is literally combining the two things that we were talking about that shouldn't be put together.
And that abstraction still, where now the fact that the artwork exists and, you know, artwork attached with the artist and all that kind of thing, that even that's not enough. Now you need to add in more commodities to make this commodity of art more valuable.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that those layers of abstraction. So, okay. So is that still art? Like when Lil Yachty or YG goes into the studio and like drinks some lean and is like Future is high out of his mind and he's just talking about like Percocet and Porsches. Is that still art given he feels like he's in his flow zone and he's achieving his expression?
In the same way that financial person is watching the charts and in that flow, I think that everyone can get into their own flow state, but also it's about like aligning with yourself. I think you have to find a balance of the two, because if you're not aligned with yourself, you can still access that flow state, but then it's filtered through every part of you.
Yep.
So it comes out in a way that isn't as pure as it could be. I think that's... Yeah.
I mean, I can think, there's many artists that have, you know, amazing voices, you know, acoustically. You know, Justin Bieber's got a really good voice.
Yeah, he does.
But he goes out and makes songs like Yummy. Was it Yummy?
Yeah.
And others. Jessica Malboy, when she won Australian Idol, she was on Australia. She went and started doing pop music and it got a lot more popular than the other, but she has an amazing voice. So it's sort of, they might get into a flow state, but they've forgotten the originality of how they got to that flow state. The flow state is still there, but it's being changed over time to fit something that works for them financially.
Right.
So it's still, I think, to answer the question, it's same as the financial. It's still art, but it's their concept and their basically canvas has changed. Sort of thing.
Okay, so if the threat is that commodification of everything that it means to be human, right? Eventually, I guess like a slight pivot is, we were talking about your tattoos earlier. There was an interesting story a bunch of years back. This guy started renting out space on his head to companies to get tattoos.
Oh my God.
And he became a human billboard. And like Yahoo and Google and things like that actually bought space. And mind you, it was somewhat noble in that like he needed to pay for cancer treatments and things like that, and his family wouldn't be able to pay for them, and he wanted his like wife and daughter to be looked after. I believe that was sort of the roundedness of the story.
Okay.
But this commodification of the human skin as like advertising for big corporations. So I guess where I want to get to with this is like art that we've identified as like flow state and it's pure expression and it isn't necessarily about outcome, but even that expression has been turned into a commodity down this road that we're saying is a threat to us as humanity. Coming back to the question then, if it can be used in that way, like can art be the thing that saves humanity?
Art in its pure form, yes. But then that will take us having to become more of who we are to utilize this tool of art. I think that's the key thing, because like it all comes down to our own personal relationship with our own flow state and our own art. And like if you haven't really done that inner work to kind of reconnect to your own sense of being and your own flow state, then anything like any time you're expressing yourself, it's filtered through like all of your insecurities, your past, your trauma, whatever else. So like it's really a personal journey, I feel.
Okay, yeah. Jason?
I like that the filtered thing. Yeah, it's sort of it's your flow state or what you as a person is there, but it just seems to be you're here. But then by the time you get that art out, it's like Chinese whispers or that kind of thing. You start in one ear and then you've gone, this is what I want. But then you're like, well, the next stage is, okay, I have to get a manager or an agent or something. And then they go, oh, we want to book you for a gig here. Whatever art it is, and then it's like, or even, sports stars, you want to play for one team, you go over here. And then you just like, oh, well, I'm getting paid more to go to this place. And sort of, so what you want here and then what eventuate is, not quite what you want, but And I mean, it's up to the person to be like, I'm happy for that to go out, or I'm happy to have something tattooed across my face, which is a hard one because, if you're getting paid a ton of money and it is going to set up your family if you pass away or something, then it's sort of like it's really hard to say that's a stupid thing to do because I'm like, well, I mean, it's more the companies that I would be like, really, like, can you just give them the money? Like, just be like, you can donate the money, and we go, look how good we are. We donated money, and we didn't have to get him to put all this shit on his head.
Wow, calling him out, Jason, huh? Shots fired.
Damn it, Yahoo! That's why you're not relevant anymore.
There we go.
I've got Ask Jeeves on my clavicle.
Oh, imagine that. Oh, Lordy. All right. So, so that's on that macro level, right? Like overall people, I guess we are like advocates even in what we're living out. We do want and recommend that people like seek out that version of expression that feels unfiltered, that feels like it's not for anyone else. It doesn't feel like it's designed for a specific outcome. It's just like tapping into one's own flow state. It's the kind of thing that I feel like comes out when you're on the phone to someone and you're just doodling. It's like you're letting your conscious, I guess, like ego personality brain do the talking. And then whatever's happening underneath, under the surface is what's allowed to then just come out unfiltered. And it's that kind of thing that I guess we encourage and we want everyone to kind of get on board with. So that's at that macro level. That's how it potentially could save humanity. But let's kind of dial it back and bring it real personal. Like, has art saved you in some kind of way? And then maybe like if we can share a story each or some kind of an example, I think would be pretty cool.
Did you want to go first?
I mean, as simple as was it last year through 2020. And in Victoria going through all the lockdowns and everything, like all my housemates left for because I'm from Tassie, so all my family's in Tassie and they've got a moat, so it's very hard to get over there. And so couldn't go there. All my housemates left. So I was just in this 5-bedroom house on my own for 2 months.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd hang out with my girlfriend and stuff and go to her house, but then at the end of the day, I'd come back to my house. And, I mean, everything happened. I can't remember 6 months of last year, really. But then, finding Vibe Union and started writing songs and having Discord meetings because none of us could meet up.
They were so cute.
I know, it's just, exactly. I think,
every Wednesday.
I think you and I only met each other once in person before we had to go back in lockdown. And so, I think that to me, I was writing not every week, but like when there was a song I was on or something that had something to do, it distracted me. I mean, it wasn't a perfect solution, but it was, something to express myself and not waste time, like do something with my brain and my hands instead of just sitting around all day going, it's day 75, scratching the things in the wall to say, that kind of thing. So I think, just that, as simple as just being able to, and even chats on Discord. And then when we finally got to meet up with each other and, well, are you all real? Are you real? And then even now, just sort of, do it still, if I'm not doing a lot, I still have things I could work on. And now doing gigs and that's going to help me change what we just talked about before, how I'm going to get into my flow state and how I need to engage and change things differently, which I think will benefit outside of music. Well, I hope so. Better. I think, doing the gigs now will help me be able to engage more just in general, I think. So.
Yeah. Nice. Well put.
Yeah, I've always had this kind of hunger in me to do something, and it was just aimlessly shooting at every place I could go to. So like I was like, maybe I want to do this, maybe I want to do that, and I would really, really try, but then at the end of the day, I would just feel so empty, and nothing gave me that fulfillment until I started making music. And when I realized that music was the thing that was giving me that fulfillment, I just like put everything into it. And since then, like I've transformed as a person. And that's it. That's it. Like that transformation that happened in me just completely shifted the way I experienced my reality and how I experienced people, and just made life so much better. Like the quality of life and how I feel on the inside completely like flipped just from creativity. So
that's really powerful, and that it elicited and actually fostered better connections with the people around you. I think is so deep, and it's exactly that. It helps us feel human. Nice.
What about you, Mash?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
We haven't asked you any questions.
Yeah.
We keep skipping you, so
we'll
get in.
I'm just the robot asking the questions, guys. But yeah. Did you both shush me at the same time?
I said AI.
AI. Right. So so I was initially going to come at it with that 2020 angle as well, right? Is the impact that it had positively on mental health to have this like collective art vision and actually an avenue for me to express was really powerful. But I guess even looking at, in my teen years, feeling disconnected from family in a sense or disconnected from social groups and being able to just like chuck on my Walkman with my like burnt CDs that were my favorite tracks and things like that, and being able to actually just escape that. And I think, there's layers to that, but definitely like as a teenager, not feeling like I necessarily belonged in any of the circumstances I was in. Music helped me feel like I did. And it allowed me to feel like, cool, whatever is going on, that just is. And I've got my music to kind of help me through as well. It definitely has like a sense of, hey, just stay. Like, hey, like the world is colorful and beautiful, and here's a way to see that. And I definitely felt that connection as a result.
Oh, so good.
And and then like flip side, getting to then perform it and have these like deep experiences that are about connection that are like totally decommodified, and I think that feels really cool. You came and saw this gig we did at Collingwood Flats, like the underground car park.
Oh, hands out, like still to this day one of my favorite gigs ever.
It was awesome. Like the slight backstory here is working with Adam Gauci of like Maltese Well Monster, Curse of Dialect. Like the guy is he to me is like that sort of pure expression type guy.
Sure.
He's got songs where he's written them and recorded them in Curse of Dialect, recorded songs, and they will perform them. But him actually in the moment just making up on the fly. And Elf Transporter is another one who does that, and Izzy Brown, both in Combat Wombat, those two, when they get on the mic and just let loose, what comes out. Actually, Mono the Messenger, we've raved about him before. That to me feels like that highest form of art. Is it's just, here's what's coming out of me right this minute. And then music is so cool because music is really well coupled to time, right? It naturally, intrinsically is. And so then the more that you can be tapped into what's happening presently, and if you can put words to it, then making that a more profound and concrete connection is exactly this. There's less ambiguity in like a jazz scale being played or something like that, where it could be anything. It's like, no, it's these words, it's about this connection and things like that. So that gig was really powerful in that moment of like, cool, actually, let's just let loose. Let's just let these sounds echo and reverberate around this space. And I'm going to try and convince this person to clap and this baby to say wan, like trying to get a cup of water to like make a noise and things like that. Just living quite freely in that. And that none of that was about money. None of that was about, record. Like we got some recorded footage and stuff, but actually what's more fun is acknowledging that happened and being able to just revisit, not turn that into content or a commodity later.
Totally, yeah.
And above everything else, that it was a community event. It was about bringing together even like the young people in that community who, like, some of them write at Rhymes and things like that, which are some programs for the kids in that area. That's how we met. That those young people were able to get given a platform and a stage to express. Was really powerful. So I'm a huge sucker for believing that the bringing together of art and artistic expression is what like connects us all. It is what unites us in a really powerful way. We feel that at the Lyrebird Lounge whenever we go do our thing. And then that next step is, I guess it's really up to you to decide if that's what saves humanity, if humanity even needs saving. But it is, it's a critical component for me. It's a key ingredient, is like having art and having the ability and the freedom to express, I think is massive. So yeah, that's me on that. Thanks for your question, guys.
Love that completely. Do we have time, or should we be wrapping up?
How are we doing? Oh no.
Oh, he's got to enter the password. No.
Yeah, I reckon final thoughts.
Final
what
thoughts.
What have you got for us?
So I would like to end it on this note. You've now witnessed a very interesting conversation about creativity, and I feel like it's your responsibility with this new knowledge to kind of like step away and just take those first steps into what do I like doing? You know, just as simple as it is, go out for a walk, smell a flower, you know, and then slowly get used to what you enjoy. And the more you get used to what you enjoy, the easier it will become to know what your passion is. Like, to jump from where you are now to your passion, it might be a huge leap. And it's actually not even possible. It's a very slow, incremental process in figuring out who you are, what you enjoy, and then one day, very organically, you'll come to a place and be like, oh, this is my thing. This is what I want to do. Cool. But don't put that pressure on yourself to find it so soon. Just take the first steps. Those are my final thoughts.
Beautiful.
Well, I mean, I have a perfect example for what you were just saying. Is I played football or soccer for 25 years. And that's what I did from 5 years old to 20, over 20 years. Did that. My dad played, I enjoyed it, and then was playing, was in Hobart, I was just playing, and season started off well, like pre-season games playing well, and then when the season actually started, 4 games in, I just mentally wasn't there anymore. I was like, 4th game, had another bad game, and I was just at the end of it, everyone went back in the change rooms to get me, blah, blah, and I just sat, I'm like, I'm done. I'm just done. And then sort of told my coach, I'm like, I just need time off. And then I came back again, played reserves a bit for that year, and then got back into the first team, and then got injured, got like hit, like ran into, this is a goalkeeper, so someone ran into me anyway. But it was like they hit me in the shoulder, and it was just, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't feel like playing anymore. And then I moved into poetry, and then been in Hobart, there's not a big scene, and then kept doing it, moved to Melbourne, and now I'm going from poetry, well, still doing poetry and doing music as well. So yeah, you can just, you just figure out what you want to do, and it will, unfortunately, or sometimes you just have to realize after 20 years of doing the same thing, sometimes it just has to come to an end, you know, and then focus on something else. Yeah.
Taking your first steps, and that it's never too late. I think that's what's also critical in that. I was having a great chat with Elf Transporter just yesterday, and he was saying, you know, that he came into it, and I've always really struggled with this, especially coming into hip hop. Like, some of these kids are doing it from like age 12. You know, they grew up on the streets and all that kind of thing, and I know I started when I was 26 in like 2017. I was like 26 years old, and I always thought like maybe I'm kind of the only guy, like the oldest guy in hip hop, like to start and things like that. And he said the same thing. He was like, oh, when I was 25 when I got into it, I was painting, and I was trying to like get into galleries and stuff. And then I got into like drumming, and then from drumming into hip hop and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh, right. Like, there is no such thing. There's no age limit on it.
Oh, yeah.
No, I felt the same way, because I only started last year, 29. So.
Yeah, there you go.
I started a year and a half ago, so it's never too late.
It's never too late, and there's also no right or wrong medium. Right? Like, find the thing that you kind of want to try to do and get yourself into it. So if that's vlogging, if that's doing makeup tutorials, like whatever it is that feels right, doesn't even need to be outcome driven, doesn't need to be audience driven. Like, personally, I know this about myself. I need to do a thing like with a camera or with an audience involved. I really struggle with the work that no one will see. And I've been getting better at that over time, because I decided that that's how I get better at the stuff that the audience will see. But that's just, that's my own side of things. Like, decide for yourself what's the outcome that you want. And there's, you know, so many people that you're probably watching this, thank you for being along for this ride, who have done little bits and bobs like that in your own lives. And whether or not we've connected artistically over the years yet or not is totally redundant. Like, the fact that you're doing it is the most amazing part. So thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for being a part of what we're doing. Bless you. Stay well. Stay safe. And it's been awesome having you for episode 15. Catch you on the next one.
Love you guys.